Hello and welcome to Publishing Your Success, November 2015. I have a very special guest with us today to talk us through the power of a book and also really how to market yourself in a super niche market. Um, this episode of How to Sell Your Book Quickly, Making More Money with Less Hassle and Fewer Headaches is co-presented with Dev Lall. Hello Dev, how you doing?
Very good, very good. Nice to meet you, Bill. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for taking the time today to speak to us all
No,
regarding
pleasure.
the certain marketing traits that you know and use, and what we're going to discuss a bit later on is a few things regarding obviously book marketing, but also the wider spread of marketing and how you can hopefully help a few people out with their questions and queries whilst they watch this. But before
Yeah,
we
sure.
start, Dev,
Looking
if you
forward to
could
it.
just let everybody know about yourself, really. Tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name's Dev. I'm actually a surgeon, but what I've done is I've moved on from my NHS work and I've set up well several businesses in the past. One is I used to design racing cars in the past life, believe it or not. But now my current business is helping doctors to grow their own private practices. So I guess you'd call it marketing for medics. Really, that's what it is.
Yeah, perfect. And how long have you been the private practice success? How long has that been going now?
Oh gosh. Well, initially when I started out, I sort of did it for friends, if you like. I was working in hospitals, and from the experiences I learned whilst running a sports car company and designing and building and selling racing cars,
Yeah,
the impact that had on me was first of all is that I really, we built this car and we designed it and that was all great, and then it sort of dawned on me we needed to actually sell some. and uh, and and that's probably quite a good idea after you've invested all that money to get as far as designing and building a car. So it was a bit of a crash course in marketing,
okay.
and
Yeah,
and really, through that process, I mean, we went on to sell cars all over England and all over Europe, which was great before eventually, closed the company and moved on to do other things. Really, I didn't want to be a sports car designer all my life. But what came from that is that colleagues who ran their own private practices in hospitals and so on would contact me and sort of ask me on the side to see if I could help them grow their practices. So initially, I started out just doing this as to help people as a friend, really. And then it sort of dawned on me that there was maybe a bigger opportunity here that I should wake up to. And so that's when I started my business, my current business, which is helping doctors formally as a consultant to consultants, if you like, to grow their private practices. And that's my big business at the moment.
oh, that's magic. Yeah, I mean, I know Dev personally as well. We know each other through other marketing activities and other marketing groups and so on and so forth. And what Dev is fantastic at is basically what he said there. And I've pointed this out to him a couple of times and over the phone today, in fact, wasn't he? He's fantastic at explaining situations to people. And I think that does come from obviously from your background, Dev, doesn't it? As a doctor, I suppose, by trying to tell people some not very nice things sometimes, I suppose. But from a marketing point of view and just from a business point of view, Dev is fantastic at breaking things down for people and kind of sharing the advice and kind of knowledge that he has. Today, what we're going to talk about, Dev, if that's okay with you, boss, is really we're going to start just to let everybody know. Dev is like many of us out there. His book is almost done, and I wanted to bring Dev in because a lot of people that I do interview, and obviously their books are done, it's out there, it's all fluffy, it's all nice to go. But I thought I'd bring Dev in because I know a lot of you out there as well are kind of almost there, almost finished. And I think you said, Dev, you're about, is it 95 or 90% kind of done?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm between 90 and 95% done, and I'm sure you'll know far better than I, of course. I mean, publishing and so on is your area of expertise.
yeah.
But yeah, you get very close, and then you don't quite push it over and get it ready, get it done, and that's the final bit, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely. So we're just going to briefly talk about Dev's book that he'll be publishing fairly shortly, and just the kind of process of how he's kind of set it out and why bother writing the book in the first place. But today, really, publishing success is really going to be more about um, dealing with how to get more clients, and with Dev especially. I mean, how to market yourself in a super niche like he is. He's actually marketing to private practices throughout the UK across Europe as well, Dev, or is it just through the UK?
Just in the UK at the minute.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I can expand in many directions, but I
yeah,
think I've yet to fully expand enough in the UK. So
yeah.
yeah, but all I can say is I'm glad we don't have webcam set up because you'll be seeing me blushing otherwise. You're flattering me too much.
And then Dev is going to give us some super hints and tips. He doesn't know about this yet, but he's going to give us some super hints and tips at the end as well. So yeah, the process today, as always, very simple, very formulaic, but it's going to help you get inspired to finish the book. It's also, I think, this one particularly, this interview is going to help you think about your marketing as well. And Dev's going to talk through that. So again,
Absolutely.
less of me and more about. But then again, look, there's got to be a copy of me somewhere, a copy of my book. The reason why I put that in there is obviously we haven't done Dev's cover yet. So a bit of self promotion. Why not? I've put mine in there. But as I always say, the book is just the start of it. Um, Dev, just go through briefly. As I said, you're almost there with the book. Just give
Yeah.
the people out there, obviously, the title of the book, the process of what you've done by writing it, as in like some people will set down, chunks of days or it's take, whatever. Just go
Yeah.
through that first of all, mate. So if you could let us know the actual title and a little bit about the book, please.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, to backtrack, you and I sort of encountered each other because you were recommended to me as the guy to get to do two things really. One is to publish a book, but of course there's any number of publishers out there. But the other thing is your area of expertise in promoting people and
Yeah,
promoting their books and using it as a tool, and that's how we first encountered. And it's fascinating. You should talk about me and my book and how I'm going to use it because the first after we spoke on the phone, you sent me a copy of your book.
yeah,
And that's the thing, you see, because if there is no more potent or powerful a way, I think, of presenting yourself as an expert in what you do, other than having a book. I mean, short of being somebody who's seen all over the television screen, having a book is probably as close as you can get. I mean, that if you've got a book, it says a great deal about you.
mm,
I mean, the people talk about authority. Well, what's the first part of authority? It's author, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
And being a published author has a mystique about it still. So it's you that I've got to thank for helping me with that. Now, my book, as you might expect, is aimed at doctors in growing and to give them information to teach them, to show them how to grow their private practice. And I'm trying to remember the title now because I've had so many titles buzzing around in my head. It's called Succeeding in Private Practice: How to Double Your Income in 6 months or Less. Now, the first thing about a book is you've got to think, well, what is its purpose? So obviously part of that purpose has to be to mark you out as an authority in the topic, and we've already said how a book it immediately grants you expert status.
yeah,
The next thing, of course, is to promote you and what you do, with the view to growing your business. So the first thing I think is to decide who you're aiming at, and then to make sure your title speaks to that person. So in my niche, obviously, what I'm selling is consulting services, and other elements of my business to that group of doctors. So the idea of my title, as I say, is I've gone through several sort of iterations to
yeah,
choose one that I think will most appeal to them. So that's the next element, if you like, is getting a boring title like I don't know, how to market or something.
yeah,
Who's
exactly.
interested in
Yeah,
that?
yeah. How to become a
So,
successful published author in 90 days. That is a boring title.
well, you say that, but I mean, it speaks exactly to the
Yeah,
person who's looking to publish a book,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah. Joking
it's
aside, no, it's
speaking to
true.
the
Yeah,
right person. Not only that, you're saying, look, it's not something that's going to take you a lifetime to do, because we've all heard of people working on their magnum opus, their great big book, and it's just taken years to achieve, and is often still never completed. Where you're
yeah,
saying, like, quite clearly, look, not only can you do this, but you can do this in a very sensible period of time, just 90 days or 3 months.
yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
so I think there's a lot to recommend your title.
Yeah, no, I mean it's as you said. I mean, and this is why Dev's here today as well. Is to talk more about marketing, but with the book as well. With Dev's book as well. Just talk me through the kind of process. Dev. Have you kind of because everyone asks me the similar questions as well, and it's good to
Hmm.
hear it from other people. Is
Mm.
do you like most have kind of bursts on the book, for example? So you kind of have, you know, time is of the essence for everybody. I fully understand, but do you
Sure.
kind of have like a burst where you get a lot done and then kind of leave it for a few weeks and then come back
Yeah.
again, or how's the process been for you?
Well, it's been, as you say, really a stop-start process. I
Mm,
mean, for several weeks at a time, I'll be writing X number of words, a variable number of words, but sometimes quite a few, sometimes not so many every day.
yeah,
And then I'll get sick of it or distracted, or there'll be other,
yeah,
other
more,
elements to my
yeah,
business,
yeah,
working with clients and so on. I'll need to do, and it'll get forgotten a bit, and then I'll come back to it. Um, in terms of, I mean, I guess one of the things that it's useful, that might be useful to talk about to your listeners, is to talk about the process of the writing, isn't it?
yes, yeah,
Um, I think there are several approaches that you can take, and the approach I have taken and has that worked for me. Excuse me, excuse me, frog in my throat. The process that's worked for me is I have as as part of growing my business, I have got a lot of PR. And
yeah,
so there's a lot of stuff about me in the sort of specialist press. And so there's a column, for example, that I have in one of the specialist magazines in my niche, and every month there's a 1,500 word piece that's published in that, and there's a few other bits and pieces around. So what
yeah,
I did when I started is I dug up all those bits and pieces that I'd written before and put them in a big, collated them all together, printed them out, and put them in a big heap of paper beside me on the desk. And although that won't, not everybody will have that, I think a lot of us will still have that, particularly if you've been in business any time.
yeah,
There might be adverts, there might be products you've created, there might be, oh, I don't know, critiques you've done for
yeah,
people. There might be all sorts of work that you can draw on and pull that all together as sort of the basis for a book. And whilst I can't, because I don't own the copyright, it's been published in a magazine,
yeah.
it's PR for me, but it still serves as a very useful starting point.
Yeah, yeah, it gives you ideas,
And
doesn't it? It gives you ideas to kind of bounce off and spark it into life, really.
it does more. It's also giving you content, because I
Mm.
mean, to rewrite any of those pieces, to write for a magazine, for example, you have to actually. It's hard because you have to keep very focused and get the word count down.
Yeah,
It's very easy to get the word count up, but sometimes it's difficult to get the word count down. So first of all, each of those topics serves as an individual chapter in the book.
yeah,
Secondly, you can move them all around and rearrange them, so now you've got some sort of structure.
sure.
Thirdly, you can now see where the gaps, so to speak, are. So I might look through all this stuff where I've talked about various elements of marketing for doctors and how doctors can get more patients and so on. But then I might realize, oh, well, I haven't talked about, for example, video marketing, or I
Yeah,
haven't talked about whatever. And so the gaps start to get more obvious. And then now, once you've got all that together, you can say, okay, well, I've got my structure there. Now I can just expand upon all that content. And that's really the approach that I've taken.
yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's great advice for everybody out there, really. And again, it's nice to hear from other people because obviously, I do daily emails and I send a lot of literature out as well. And I do promote this. People do have the content there. Like you say, whether it's in old kind of sales letters or emails or whatever it may well be, most of the content you have is there. It's just, like you said, it's just collated it together, isn't it? And put it again into like a formula that you're happy with, that again
And,
that
and
encourages you to finish.
Absolutely. And Bill, one point you just raised that is excellent. It's about emails, because, I mean, some people are reading this will be established businessmen and women and entrepreneurs of many, many years, and perhaps some great success, and others will be just starting out. But certainly, I would hope that many people out there are sending emails and content to their clients, and I do that, and I send out tips to my consultants, free tips about how to grow their private practice by email, and some of those are great. Others are less good, but the point is I've copied all those again as well, and it's more content that I can go back and look through and use to structure chapters and sections of the book that I may even have forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because there is so much, and so it's not to neglect those emails. That's a very good point you've made.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of them things. I think, like you said, I think that most people do neglect it because you write an email that's not War and Peace. Sometimes it only might just be a couple of paragraphs, but you dismiss it. But the content, as I always say, content is king. And whatever's in them paragraph, 2-3 paragraphs is irrelevant really. It's the content, and if it's quality, you can use and expand it for the book and for other purposes, really, can't you? So.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. So what we're going to move on slightly, as I said, it's more today, more to help people understand marketing themselves, marketing their business. Obviously, the book itself is a great tool, as we all know, to generate leads and get established, as you said earlier. But I think most people as well, that I deal with, and we run a couple of programs where we help people get more leads in by using their books. But it's nice to hear from other people from different areas of expertise, completely different away from me, to kind of understand their thoughts, their processes of how they're successful in their own particular niches. So we're going to just go through now as well. With Dev, and Dev will take command now, and I'll just throw in a few things just when he sparks really. But I think what we're going to go through, Dev, is if that's okay, just go through a few things as to the number one thing: increase numbers from current referral sources, which Dev will go through. Increase the numbers by expanding your marketing funnel. Now, some people might be thinking, "Oh, blimey, where are we going with this?" But stay with. It's fairly simple. Change your case mix and the 80-20 marketing rule. So. Over to you, Doctor.
Well, right, gosh. So, how long have we got? Okay, so I think everyone would agree that having a book really marks you as an authority in the field that you published in, and that can be really quite a small and niche field. I mean, for example, my field is marketing to doctors. A colleague of mine who's also in the process of publishing a book and will probably be knocking on your door shortly, his area of expertise, if you like, is architectural glass, and he creates splashbacks and glass doors and all sorts of things for a lot of the big London hotels and so on, and he's got a book in the pipeline. The point is, if you've written a book, that marks you as an expert, and that's the first thing, because convincing any visitor, say, to your website, or that reads a direct mail piece you've sent out, or reads any kind of advertising marketing that you produce, to convince them that you are the person to deal with is an uphill task. There's no question about it. And we all get so much advertising thrown at us from so many different directions that we sort of blank a lot of it out, and we ignore much of it. So to get yourself noticed, a book is a great start. And of course, you can do several things with that book. First of all, when you get books published, what do people do when they meet prospective clients and customers? They give them a business card. Well, how dull is that? Yeah. If you've got a book, you can hand that to people that look like good hot leads, if you like, to say, here you go, have a look at my book, and if there's whatever your niche, whatever your industry, so have a look at my book, and we'll arrange a time to speak next week. I mean, how persuasive is that to somebody? So giving out a book instead of a business card is a fantastic thing you can do.
Yeah.
And you might say that's going to be expensive, but hold on. If you were serving your customers well, you're going to be charging good prices, and to generate leads can be expensive. So how many pieces of direct mail you have to send out to get one lead? Well, you might have to send out hundreds or even thousands. Well, if it costs you £2 or £3 to give somebody a book, that can be a fantastic return on investment on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of warms the cockles of people, doesn't it? For want of a better word, to get a book for people is a nice, not gift, that sounds wrong, but it's a better presentation, like you say, than just business card swapping or just online marketing. Sometimes the physical book, as I always say, as long as with all the other online stuff, which is fantastic, and we use it obviously, but a book still is a real powerful thing to kind of give to somebody, isn't it? And kind of acknowledge who you are, and people are very much more reciprocal to you if given that, aren't they?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, what do you do with a business card?
Yeah,
You,
that goes in
you
your
know,
pocket somewhere, doesn't it?
at best it go in your pocket to be forgotten about, or your wallet, or at
Yeah.
worst you just drop it in the bin or something. But a book, people keep books. And if you make the book useful and interesting and of value in itself, I mean, we're not just talking about this is how great I am kind of book. We're talking about a useful book
Yeah,
that gives people useful information. I mean,
absolutely.
Bill and I are part of the same mastermind group, and one of the guys in the group says in the book, you teach people how the what and the why and the how they pay for. So
Yeah,
that's a very, very useful way of using your book,
yeah,
of course, and if you're producing products, then the book is, dog grooming or whatever it might be, or architectural glass. They can't get that from the book. They just get the knowledge.
yeah, absolutely.
So a book is very useful, just simply given away rather than a business card. The other thing you can do is that content, of course, is yours. You own the copyright. So unlike the situation where I'm getting this free PR, which has worked very well for me in my business, I can't use that content directly unchanged with impunity because I no longer own the copyright. But a book, of course, what I could do with a book is, first of all, I can give people a free chapter when they come to my website, so they can see that I know what I'm talking about. And again, that's persuasive, and that you get people's email address, then to marketing funnel for email marketing and so on further down the line. So that's another use of your book.
Yeah,
The other thing is, if you've got, say, for example, 20 chapters in your book, you could very easily repurpose that content. So you could get, for example, each of those chapters you can turn to a Kindle ebook, and I know you do a lot of digital publishing and digital
yeah,
promotion for
yeah,
people. So that's something you could do, and it very, very quickly and very easily that could be done once the book has been published. Next thing is you could do, for example, create a little video about
mm,
each chapter. And that sounds very complicated, but video is extremely cheap and easy to do, and it can be as with great professional equipment that costs thousands of pounds, or it can be very easily done for your own computer and put up on YouTube, put up on your website. So you can repurpose that content in so many different ways,
mm,
and all of that has come from just having the book in the first place.
yeah. No, it's amazing, really, isn't it? What it can do, and so with your current, obviously, because as I've called you a super niche today, as such, with your clients, obviously, again with Dev as well, it's not he's not like everyone else where we can kind of just go to, for example, the local wherever it is to us. Dev's obviously very specific in who he's actually targeting. Private practices, private doctors, and so on and so forth. So in your niche, it's very hard. But obviously, you've been successful in that by, as you've put here, the 4 points really of increasing numbers from current referral sources. So for people, that basically means you would go in. Obviously, you've got lists like most people have, and then you would just kind of try and regenerate that from referral sources, or would you try and get people in your inner circle to refer you over? How does that work for you?
What, lead generation in my niche?
Yes, yeah. So just because
Um,
what I'm trying to say to people is that you can be in any particular niche at all. There's no excuses to kind of not try. Not saying that not to do your best you can, but as I said, you're in that kind of super niche where it is very, very tight, if that makes sense. But you kind of seem
mm.
to lead generate very well. So just tell people how it's kind of. You don't have to tell obviously bit by bit, but that kind of just give them an overview of the way do's and don'ts really.
Sure. Well, I mean, there are two massive ways that a book helps in my business.
Mm,
Will help. I've used other articles in the meantime, but the book is the planning to use it. First of all, we've already mentioned that getting over that episode of getting people to trust you from the beginning
yeah.
when they know nothing about you is difficult,
Mm,
and having a book helps get over that. So what we're sort of talking about there is increasing the proportion of leads that say find you, who take you seriously and want to know more about you. And the obvious sort of example of that might be, for example, at a website. The conversion of people that visit a website to becoming a customer, or in my case, a patient or a client, is appallingly low, far lower than any of us would really like to look at. It's a bit scary. So maybe 1% if you're doing really well, maybe 1% of the people who come to your website might leave their email address, or pick up the phone, or take whatever course of action you want them to take. Now, if they and that's, and that obviously varies from niche to niche. Now, if you've got something on there that speaks very greatly of your authority, such as a book, then a greater proportion of that traffic that you already have will be more interested in what you do and will take that course of action. So, it might be to book an appointment to see you. It might be to give an email address for an ethical bribe of some sort. But you've got 100 people coming, and instead of one person picking up the phone or taking the desired course of action, you might have 2 or 3. So immediately, without expending any money on increasing your traffic, you've already engaging with much more people. I hate to use that word because it's sort of brand type speak, but instead of one person for every 100 coming to give you their email address or pick up the phone, you maybe have 2 or 3 or 5 now. Who knows? Massive, you have to try it and see.
Overall,
which is massive. At a very low cost. You've not had to increase traffic at all, and now many more people are interested. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, it will increase the number of people coming to your website as traffic on its own as well. So by promoting that book, and you can promote that book as you already said, as a Kindle book, which will generate income on its own, but also the upsell of the Kindle book, for example, might be the actual paperback book. There's video traffic, so you created these little videos which sit on YouTube, as well as on your own website. People see that and then come to your website, so you're increasing the traffic in that way. And of course, you can give all these little snippets away as ethical bribes to people as part of your advertising. So you might, for example, run a Facebook ad for a dog grooming, whatever it is you do, and as part of the advert you say, download a free ebook. And that will drive traffic to your landing page, and they can either get a free chapter or a free electronic version of your book, which again, as we said, you own the copyright, so you can do whatever with it you want. And then as an immediate upsell from that, you charge people to buy the book. But whether or not they buy it, they have already accepted your expertise, and you've got that lead now that you can market to in the future. So yes, it increases conversions from the traffic you've already got, but it also can be used in so many different ways to grow your traffic.
And so what do you mean by change your case mix? What's that mean?
Oh, right, I see where you've got this from. This is for doctors in private practice. There are, so myself, I'm a surgeon, and I would treat people with multiple conditions. So somebody might have a hernia that I would treat, or somebody else might have a particular cancer or a more serious problem that I would treat. But obviously and we're not talking about value judgments about people. We're just talking about the nature of the income that a given condition might generate for you as a consultant in practice. So what I really mean there is you can target people more specifically. So if you want to grow, if a doctor in my sort of situation wanted to grow the cancer side of the work, or the hernia type work, or whatever treatments, then they could write a book about that. So one of the things that I'll be talking to my clients about is to write a book themselves, for exactly the same reasons that we're talking today. Because if a doctor, so imagine one of your listeners here has a medical problem of whatever sort it might be, and finds a doctor online that they want to see, either in the NHS or privately, and they find that doctor has written a book about gallbladder problems or hernia problems or particular types of cancer or whatever. Well, again, as we've just said, that's the doctor is a consultant. He's highly experienced and so on. But because you see he's written a book on the topic, well, to me, to somebody seeing that, you're going to think, wow, this is the guy I want to see. All other things being equal, because that speaks of his expertise very eloquently, more eloquently than than the fact that he's done research on it or whatever. He's written a book about it for people just like me. I want to see him.
So would you also, because I mean I'm not under the change your case mix, would it also mean offering other products? So okay, as I say, you're very niche, but if you're a marketeer and whatever, or you're, like you say, a dog groomer, your case mix would be a book. It could be a DVD. It could be a video series. It could be an online course. It could be, whatever, like a various amount of kind of different aspects to what you offer. So will it come under that, do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that's a slightly different angle in terms of promoting it and in terms of using your content. But your point about is absolutely well made. So, for example, say you're a dog groomer.
Yeah.
Your business
we like the
is
old dog
grooming
groomers
dogs.
tonight, don't we?
Yeah.
I hope there's a few
But it works well in this example, and it works in many examples. So,
Yeah.
because, for example, grooming and looking after a dogs of almost any type is going to be very, very similar, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Even if you've got some sort of one of those big dogs, Afghans, whatever they're called, or a little dog like a Chihuahua. But the point is, you could create a generic book about dog grooming, but if you're, for example, targeting Afghans, maybe because the owners are particularly wealthy and you want to charge more or something, there are lots of reasons you might want to do that. You could very easily write a book specifically about grooming Afghans.
Yeah.
And if you've written a generic book already, you just need to change it. It'll probably take you a weekend or less to change it to talk a bit more specifically about Afghans, and it'll be published and done within a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be a way of changing the case mix, for example, changing the client base that you work with. So somebody, you want to grow your grooming side of the business, you know that Afghans owners are particularly wealthy, so you want to charge more because it is more work and this, that, and the other. Well, here you go. You are now the expert in dog grooming for Afghans.
Yeah, and you're specifically talking to the Afghan owners, aren't you? And
owners, exactly. You run a Facebook advertising campaign, and you talk about a free book for grooming Afghan dog, grooming and care of Afghans.
Yeah, yeah.
That, I mean, and as you and I both know very well, when it comes to marketing, but in any way you do it, the more specifically you speak to the person you want to reach, the greater the greater that they are likely to respond. In pay-per-click advertising, one classic way. If people are searching for grooming for Afghans or something, and that's your advert there that specifically is talking about it, there you go.
Yeah.
Your response rate compared to just a generic grooming dog is going to go through the roof.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Another example is my friend that owns the architectural glass company. Well, his architectural glass on one hand is talking about refurbishing very, very expensive hotels, and other side he's doing glass doors and splashbacks for high-end houses and so on. And he's working with another aspect of industry work as well. Well, he could very easily create a book that speaks to each of those different niches, if you like, sub-niches within what he does. The book all about architectural glass doors or whatever, and how that needs, all the stuff, pictures and things that he's done there, and or one for big hotels.
Yeah.
And when the customer can be worth a lot of money, such as a hotel, you could really go to town to create a fabulous glossy book with lots of beautiful pictures and all the rest of it, with expert photography, which again would speak volumes for your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, gain you credibility, authenticity, etc., within your field, doesn't it, straight away? So I fully understand that, and that's great points put forward there, because I think, again, people will understand exactly what you're saying there regarding, again, just take the content, but speak to your audience, whoever that audience is. It doesn't have to be a million people you're speaking to. In fact, the less is better, because you're targeting them more and more, and then the association and the affiliation that you'll get with one another, like you say, the engagement. But I know exactly what you mean. It becomes a lot stronger, quite instantly, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, even if you're selling, multi-million-pound yachts, well, not that I know anything about multi-million-pound yachts, but there are going to be many, many different types of yachts.
Yeah.
And if you are the guy who's selling them, you might sell them, but there are still going to be many, many different types of yacht. And you could publish a book talking about the different characteristics of some sort of pleasure cruiser, some sort of, sailing boat or whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, you get my point. No
Yeah,
matter
absolutely.
what your niche,
Yeah.
then no matter what your niche, there will be sub niches within there. There'll be subgroups of people that you look after.
Yeah.
And you can appeal to all of them. You can appeal all of them with a generic book, but you can hone in even sharper to really, get your marketing message very, very sharp to appeal to them so clearly.
Perfect. So talk us a little bit about the magic 80-20 marketing, or the 80-20 rule. What's your word on that then? Basically, how would you explain that to people?
Oh well, this comes back to there was an Italian bloke, I think it was in the 1800s, called Vilfredo Pareto.
Yeah.
And he did an analysis which on the face of it sounds really desperately boring. He looked at how wealth was concentrated in Italian society. And what he found was that 80% of the country's wealth was basically owned and controlled by 20% of the population. Now, at the time, that was a revolutionary and quite unexpected observation. Of course, when you sort of think about it, it's not so surprising now, because we can all think of some astonishingly wealthy people, that are out there, the Bernie Ecclestons and whatever. So there are obviously far fewer people who are worth a lot more money. But then it was a revelation. And what he did is that he then started looking at other things. So he looked at the distribution of wealth in other countries and found that a very similar kind of proportion held true. And then he took it even wider, and he looked at, so for example, wear and tear of a carpet. 80% of the wear and tear and damage to that carpet is in a perhaps a small area. Yeah. Sometimes 15%, sometimes it's 30%, but of the room, and that's because, of course, people walk along certain paths. Now, so far that's interesting at an academic level, but in terms of practical use, is it of any practical use? Well, the answer is yes. It very, very much is useful, because this asymmetry, this skew-whiffishness, is something that's present almost universally in everything that we do. Right. So, for, no matter what business, you yourself, Bill, for example, yep. You're a highly successful, busy, book publisher, but you will know that of all your clients, so maybe many hundreds, many thousands, whatever there might be, there are the little guys who are publishing maybe 10 or 20 or 50 books, whatever, and there are the big guys who are publishing many, many thousands of books, and who are responsible for a very large proportion of your income and your profits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same is true of all of us in business. Now, okay, that gets a bit more interesting. Now, why is that? How can we make use of that? Why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant because if you know who your high-value clients are, if you like, two things. Firstly, to pay them a lot more attention. You pick up, if you work out that list of those high-value people in generating, the 20% of your clients or customers that are responsible for generating 80%, 85, 75. It's a disproportionately large number that you'll find. A small group of people generating a lot more income for you than you might think.
Yeah.
If you can identify them, firstly, you can spend a lot more time on those people and serving their needs so that they remain customers and buy more from you and so on. Secondly, you can look at what their needs are and their particular problems are, and offer them more. So you sell them more things at a higher value, and they love you more because you're attending to their needs, so that increases your income. They're happy. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you can you can identify them in the way we talked about, but if you can say, well, okay, what sort of characteristics do all these guys share? What is it about them? So to the yacht salesman, well, it might be that the guys who are buying these high-end yachts, I don't know, they might be Arabic, or they might be, you look at it, they might be footballers,
Yeah.
because, the Premier League footballers. And so if you know that, okay, well, look, it seems that most of these guys are footballers or whatever. And before any of the listeners think that's a bit daft, think about the cars Premier League people buy.
Yeah.
These footballers. It seems like every week you hear about some guy who's, has driven his Bentley into a tree or something, right? This stuff is real.
Yeah.
And, a high-end car salesman or car showroom, whatever, could do exactly this. And they might find precisely the correlation that we've just talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, to take that further, if you can say, well, okay, look, all these people who are buying my Bentleys, most of them, and some of these are buying 2 or 3 of them, are footballers. Right, now you can ask yourself, great, how do I get more of these kinds of people to come in and see me and buy from me? How do I connect with more of them? Well, 2 things you can do. One is you can market to them more. So, I'm thinking a bit off the top of my head here, but what kind of things, what sort of websites, what kind of magazines, and so on would a Premier League footballer read, or what websites would they go to? So you can present your advertising and marketing material to them in that way. You could advertise and market. You can advertise and put your promotional materials in football clubs. Around the barriers and stuff, so you get seen by these people who have got a lot of money and they want to spend on your thing. The next thing is, coming full circle, is you could write a book about owning your Bentley, owning your Porsche, and you could put a football spin on it. I mean,
absolutely.
I can't think off the top of my head what you'd say, but there's all sorts of clever things you could do around that it would speak to a footballer who's interested in a Bentley.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and then now you are the top dog there, and that highly, in that niche that other people won't even think to look to.
No, and from your side of things as well. Obviously, you're within the medical profession. Do people sometimes just kind of have blinkers on what they think they can achieve and what they can't achieve, type thing with their marketing? Is it very much kind of shut and closed doors really, or what?
Oh, very, very definitely. I mean, we all, to a greater or less extent, build a little box around ourselves.
Yes.
We all, we all get used to promoting to living our lives in certain ways, and if you're in business, to promoting your business in certain ways. And for doctors, what they do is they, generally speaking, hold educational type meetings for GPs, in the hope that when a GP might have a private patient, or a patient that wants to be seen privately, I should say, that the GP will think the consultant, and that's hope marketing. It works eventually over many years, but it's no way to achieve anything fast. So what I do is I show them some of the many other things they can do to grow their private practice. Okay. And as I say, I will be, I have various publications, and this isn't a book, but yes, you can see you've got my newsletter up there. Yep. I publish a newsletter and an audio CD of teleseminars that I hold, and transcripts that I send to members of my private practice inner circle. So this is one of this. So I have a publishing company, if you like, that trains doctors and teaches them how to grow their own private practices.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's a matter of breaking out of what is possible. And one of the things I will be certainly teaching them and telling them is about the importance of publishing for themselves.
Yes. So, I mean, just to give people kind of an understanding, what with your, because Dev runs an inner circle, he also has private clients, but he also runs an inner circle as well. So within the inner, I've spoke to a few people about it as well, who kind of do, they are similar things, but just explain what your people get within your inner circle.
Yeah, well, it's basically, in short, it's a one-stop shop where you can learn how to grow your own private practice. But not only that, you get personal one-on-one attention and support from me.
Yeah.
And as part of that, they get training and information through my newsletter. They get monthly teaching sessions, if you like, where we have a one-on-one teleseminar, something similar to what we're having today, where I would talk about, for example, I would talk about the specifics of Facebook marketing or Google AdWords, or publishing or writing, or talk about one of the many, many different ways that a doctor could grow their private practice. And so they get a whole bundle of care, as well as one-on-one time from me, and which they can use to grow their own businesses, really.
And I mean, it's a hugely successful way of from your point of view, obviously, to get people in the door for bigger pictures as well, isn't it? So I always say to people, a book or a publication, like we do Dev's newsletters and his CDs and so on and so forth. That's a great kind of monthly subscription. But obviously, Dev does private clients as well. So again, the book or the publication kind of gets people notice of your kind of world and what you can give to people, and then that will, for some people, will lead on to more trust, and they will want other services from you, won't they?
Absolutely. And one new sort of arm to what I'm doing that we haven't talked about, but I think is worth mentioning for the benefit of your listeners, is talking about sending out newsletters. Now, we've sort of touched upon business cards. Now, I mean, how much does a business card cost to get printed?
Pennies nowadays, isn't it? Yeah.
A few pennies. But I mean, if you one thing I'm going to be doing is to writing a monthly newsletter which I give away for free. Now, again, a simple black and white, or even the little splash of colour. I mean, that's going to cost maybe a pound or £1.50. I don't know. It can't be that very expensive to get that in the hands of somebody who's interested in what I do, but isn't interested enough to spend money consulting with me and so on. And if they get that, I mean, imagine it's a pound. Imagine it's a pound, or call it £1.50 per month to send that to one person. Well, that's £18 a year to stay in touch with them, to stay in their face, constantly reminding them about what you do. And it's not a book, but it's it's near as damn it a book, isn't it? It's still a publication. It's still a publication, all about you, run by you, controlled by you, written by you, and of course you can get other contributors in if you want. But again, you can give this thing away for free. I mean, how much is a client worth to you in whatever business you're in? If you're not willing to spend, a quid a month to nurture that lead, to get them around to the idea of doing business with you, wow.
Why are you doing it for?
What are you doing? I mean, even with haircuts, I mean, how much does a lady's haircut cost these days? God, I have no idea.
I've got a clue. I've got no hair left. I've got a little bit of fluff at the top.
Yeah, no, I shaved my head as well, so I can't remember the last time I went to see somebody do it for me. But it's going to be, imagine it's going to be a few tens of pounds, 40 quid maybe, I don't know, something like that. Well, if it's £40, how often does a woman get a haircut? I don't know, twice a year maybe. I don't know. I'm obviously way out of my depth there, but the point is, even with haircuts, just imagine she gets a haircut twice a year, and it's probably even more. Well, that's 80 quid. Call it around 100. Well, look, if you're sending a person who, a woman who's interested in your hairdressing salon and stuff like that, she can get that, leave her address at your salon, she'll get this sent to her every month. Well, it's constantly reminding her, first of all, that you're the person that's going to cut their hair. So, and secondly, it's going to make it more likely, not only will they just keep coming to see you every year, but secondly, they're going to get their hair cut more often. Because it reminds them, maybe you ought to, get this wedding coming up or whatever, or look good for summer. And you can talk about all this sort of stuff in your newsletter. So you encourage loyalty. And secondly, you encourage people to do business with you more often. And the other thing is, of course, it ain't just about that one £40 haircut. It's about the fact that that £40 haircut they might have 2 or 3 times a year, and they might stay with you for 3, 4, 5 years.
And also refer their friends, etc.
And exactly. So when you look at it that way, the value of that little newsletter, which is is paying you back, multiple times over, many times over. And so this is something that I'm going to be doing in my business, and it's something that anyone can do. This isn't rocket science.
No, No, it's just level as most people. It's just consistency, and just getting a formula to do it. And I think most people then are kind of, set upon their ways, and it's just the regularity of getting it done then. So we'll just conclude matters now, if you don't mind. But just if you can just kind of give anybody hints and tips, not necessarily about the book, but just overall, just general marketing, because really fascinating stuff you've given us today, Dev. I really do appreciate it. And if you can just kind of, if someone's starting out, or it doesn't even have to be starting out, but someone's kind of think, okay, yeah, I understand. I'm going to get the book. I'm going to start marketing it. What would you kind of, just 3 tips, really, hints and tips to kind of get people thinking this is what I probably should need to do to get things moving along?
Sure. Okay. Well, what I want to do, let me tell you one thing first before it goes out of my head, because I know I'll forget it otherwise. And this is something I want to thank you for, because with my newsletter and book in the future, one of the things I was thought, oh God, is that I'm going to end up with a huge pallet of books sat in the middle of my living room, causing no end of constant marital strife. Or I'm going to have all these newsletters arrive, and then I'm going to be sitting there with a nasty taste in my mouth, licking these envelopes and stamps and all the rest of it, posting them out. And that, for me, I really didn't want any truck with any of that. And it's a massive waste of my time.
Yes.
And you told me that this is something you can do, for which I'm eternally grateful. So what I do, and what I would advise anyone to do out there, is when you get your book or your newsletter or anything like that published, speak to somebody like Bill, and give Bill your spreadsheet or your database and say, like, this is who it goes out to. Can you just make it so?
Yeah.
And he will, and he does. And on the very, very vanishingly rare occasion where somebody hasn't received their thing, he sorted it out like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get somebody else to do the stuff that
you don't want to.
You don't want to. Why waste your time?
Why waste your time? Thank you.
Exactly.
I didn't pay him for that, anyone. I didn't pay him any money to say that. But thanks, Dev. That's really my team. Yeah, as you know, mate, I'm the lazy one here. I'm the mouth. But I've got all the team behind me that does all that. But no, thanks for mentioning that.
But as you put, because that never occurred to me. And when you said, look, Dad, how do you want to do this? I just thought, wow, hallelujah. There's the angels singing. I thought that's fabulous. So the first thing is I guess it's automation in a way. If you can find somebody else who can do stuff for you, get them to do it, because it frees your time to do what is most important. And what is most important for any business, it's not doing the thing, doing whatever it might be. It's not, publishing the book. It's not grooming the dog. It's not, selling the Bentley to the Premier League football player. It's getting the people in to get the thing done. It's to market the process.
Yeah. It's
to market the business. Because without leads, you're dead in the water.
Yes.
You don't have a business. It doesn't matter what you got. Doesn't matter what you're selling or what you're producing. It might be the most wonderful yacht or whatever it is,
like your racing cars, like you said,
Exactly, yeah. Going back to racing cars, it dawned on me that this is a lovely car, but this is going to be a very, very expensive and disaster if I don't actually sell any, and that's it. So, whilst you do have to have a product or service that's worthwhile and adds value to people's lives and all the rest of it, you've got to be able to sell it. So delegate as much as you can and focus your efforts on getting good at marketing your business, whatever it might be, because that is what will mean the success or otherwise of your venture. You've got to get good at it.
Yeah.
So delegation's first thing. Secondly, get good at marketing. Find people who've done what you've wanted to do before and model what they do. Learn from the experts, and there are many other marketing experts out there. There are also many charlatans. So good luck, but there are experts out there, and learn from them, but focus your efforts on learning the critical business skill, which is selling what you do. And selling is a bit of a dirty word in the UK, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's certainly people don't look upon it as anything that's really worthwhile. But that's what greases the wheels of commerce. That's how
Absolutely. It's an art form,
that's
you know.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
But there's a science to it as well.
yeah,
There's a lot that you can learn, and a lot by reading books and stuff. But in the end, you've got to do it and put that effort in, and it will make all the difference.
yeah, yeah. That's magic.
Okay.
Brilliant. So if you are interested in more about Dev, and he's got, as I said at the very start, his kind of approach to how he talks to people, I think, is brilliant. He breaks things down fantastically, especially for little numpties like me who need things kind of broken down nice and easily. But if you're have a look at his website as well, privatepracticeexpert.co.uk, especially if you're in the kind of the medical or dentistry or even the kind of veterinarian kind of arena. That's really where you obviously more medical, but that's where Dev specialises. But if not, anyway, just go along, have a look at his website, kind of see what he kind of does. You wouldn't mind a few people signing up, Dev, would you, type thing to bits and bobs, especially if they're kind of doctors and vets and stuff. So
no, not at all. If any of your listeners are in the medical sort of field, then take a look, and they can sign up and get some free tips on how to grow their private practice. And if anyone else is just curious as to how I do things, then certainly go along and have a look. I'll be delighted.
Yeah, perfect. Well, as I said, Dev, thanks ever so much for your time. I really appreciate it. That's been one of the best ones we've done so far for information. I must admit, really, really good. So thanks a lot, buddy, and I'll see you soon for a beer.
Bill, my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to it.
Good man.
Take care now.